Hello and welcome to this episode of It's Not You, but Sometimes It Is. And I am so thrilled to share this episode with you where I got to visit with Fran Maier, the CEO and founder of BabyQuip. And her journey is incredibly interesting, being a female entrepreneur, Silicon Valley warrior, in an incredibly male-dominated space, and just hearing the importance of self-awareness and personal growth to overcome adversity. I know you're going to get a lot out of this. It was a pleasure talking with Fran, having her share her really unique insights and wisdom. Enjoy the episode. So, welcome, friends, to It's Not You, but Sometimes It Is, the podcast where real leaders in executive roles talk about the real crap we faced, what we learned, how we overcame it. And my guest today, very excited to have this conversation with Fran Maier, who is the CEO and founder of BabyQuip, really cool, innovative company. And Fran has had a very really long and diverse leadership history. So, Fran, thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm super excited to be here. I love podcasts with a little bit of a different take.
Yeah, yeah. And this one, we talk about all the stuff that a lot of people won't talk about.
I, I'll do my best.
Awesome. So, can you give us a little bit of background about your company, but also kind of your pathway there? Because you took a very non-traditional path.
Right. Well, first, let me start with BabyQuip. BabyQuip is the leading baby gear rental marketplace. We provide gear for traveling families and deliver to over 2,000 locations, things like cribs, car seats, strollers, and so on.
Mhm.
And we do this through a community of independent contractors that we call quality providers. They're mostly moms, and they're the ones that own and deliver and pick up the gear. We're like the Verbo or Turo of baby gear. And it's super gratifying and a lot of fun. And yes, windy way here. This is actually my fifth startup. In some respects, the most fun, but my first one is very well known. I was on the co-founding team of Match.com, and I was the first general manager, and that was over 30 years ago.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was a young mom, and it was the wild, wild west of the internet, kind of crazy.
Yep.
And from there, I did a couple of other internet companies, and my last one is called TrustArc. It's still around and does internet privacy
Mm.
and data compliance, regulatory compliance kinds of things. And I left there in the about let's say 2012,
Mhm.
and post-divorce moved from Alameda, California, to to San Francisco. Bought a three-story house up the street from what I didn't know was Airbnb. And within a few months of moving into my new house, I was renting rooms in that house on Airbnb. And then I bought some property in Santa Fe, and that's where I'm sitting today, because that was my hometown. I wanted to have some real estate here. And all of a sudden, I was a gig economy
Mhm.
vacation rental entrepreneur. And that got me thinking too. And I would have continued that for a while, but I got a little antsy and I kind of knew there was one more startup in me. And I was looking at other things that were emerging in the gig economy and in the vacation rental space.
Mhm.
And I met somebody who was doing baby gear here in Santa Fe. And frankly, I knew there were no guys with hoodies looking at this. And And it made a lot of sense to me because as a Verbo Airbnb host, I would have families stay at my
Mhm.
homes, but I didn't want to provide all that gear and be responsible for the safety and cleanliness. And
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, these new strollers are hard to figure out,
Mhm.
And and so I thought it was good sense. And so we started the company in 2016.
Yeah.
And here we are 9 years later. We have over 3,000 quality providers in over 2,000 markets. we just announced and deployed our partnership with Verbo, and we had a profitable summer on top of that. And finally, we're doing a Start Engine campaign to raise a little bit of money so we can expand even more quickly.
Exciting. Exciting. I
Yeah,
have to
so
say,
really
like,
good stuff.
yeah, I really could have used that service when I was traveling around
I
with
hear
my
that all
baby.
the time. You had twins, right?
No, no, just the one. Just the
Oh,
one.
okay.
I actually, when I got that first sonogram and I was told just one baby, I cried in relief because there's twins in my family. But yeah, it's real, and I traveled sometimes solo with my baby toddler. It's incredibly hard. Um,
Yes, it is. And we're going to get you eventually because we're moving into mobility. And
okay. When I need that support.
when you need the wheelchair and the
Okay,
walker, we'll be
great.
there for you.
Awesome. Brilliant. Brilliant. So clearly you are the type of person who is really good at seeing an opportunity in a market and being unafraid to step in to the opportunity and give it a
You
go.
know what's interesting, and I don't always admit it, but since you said this is all about um, truth,
Mhm.
none of the companies did I come up with the idea.
Yeah,
And all of them, I scaled it and took it further.
right.
Yeah.
You see a good idea and an opportunity, and you're one of those people that's good at recognizing a good market.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's worked out well for me, I could say.
Yeah. Well, and I rarely get to interview anyone whose companies have made a personal impact on my life, and my kid wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Match.com because that's where
Well,
I
there
met
you
my
go.
husband. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we sold Match.com for way too little, way too early.
Oh,
But, and I made virtually no money off it.
yeah.
But hearing stories like yours is always very gratifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, using Match.com was a part-time job for a while, but I was serious. And I found my husband and I was like, this is the one. I'm off the app. This is it. Like it was just so clear. So,
You're
and
better than me. I'm still on the apps.
well, yeah, some of us admittedly get lucky. But Match.com was really like the big front runner with all those kinds of dating and relationship apps. So you were a early visionary in
Thank
that
you.
space. So we love to talk about you've had a lot of successes, but I know that it has been you have had a lot of little battles, um, and a lot of kind of unexpected complications and just also like relationship issues, the working relationships, the culture, the human dysfunction. So of course I want to jump right over there because I know you probably have some interesting stories of guys in hoodies, we'll say. So I'm interested, especially being in that environment. You were in a heavily male-dominated environment many years ago, where you had to be a tough cookie, I'm sure, to be in that space. And there was some unhealthy cultures. We have all seen the movies and heard the stories, right, of California tech, web-based companies at that time. So can you give us an example of something really difficult that you hit at that time and how you overcame it, being this woman in a tech environment in this like very, very different industry and field, but you were in the founder executive role.
Right. Well, I look back at the Match.com days, and again, I'm really proud of what we built, and I'm proud of my contributions to it.
Mhm.
But I had a big miss in that when we sold it for less than $8 million,
Mhm.
it was after we sold it that I realized I probably could have bought it. And I could have put together the investment group
Mhm.
and taken it to the next level.
Mhm.
And within the next year, it was sold for $70 million.
Yeah.
And it was a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
Um, I think had I been a guy, um, somebody would have said, "Why don't you do it?"
Uh-huh.
I think had I had more confidence,
Mhm.
maybe I would have asked for help. And, I went to Stanford Business School. I'm sure somebody would have said, "Why don't you do it?" and encouraged me.
Mhm.
I think if I had more family support and wasn't so exhausted with two little children,
Mhm.
I might have been able to get there myself.
Mhm.
but that was a tough lesson.
Yeah.
Um, and I did learn from it. And about 10 years later, I took Trustee, the privacy company, from nonprofit to for-profit,
Hmm.
and I raised the money and I got my shares.
Hmm.
So, you know, it was a tough lesson. Trustee was tough. I was there for a number of years, and before I turned it to a for-profit, I had a nonprofit board. I had mostly privacy lawyers on the board, mostly men. And I tell you, there was one particular time they want to give me feedback on a strategic retreat we had. And these guys put me in the middle of the room and they all sat around me and just kind of just threw out this, that, and the other, kind of like with them trying to outdo each other.
Oh,
And it took everything I had not to break down, you know?
yeah.
And it's hard for women. Women, we the tears come, you
Hmm.
know? I mean, the tears come. And I wish now I would have said to the board chair, I don't think this is appropriate.
Hey.
I'm happy for you guys to spend the time and decide what feedback you want to give me.
Hmm.
And we can talk about it at some other point in time,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So why did I allow myself to be put into that position?
Oh,
But,
I
you
mean,
know, unfortunately, many of us, and I think a lot of women, are trained to be pleasers.
hmm, absolutely.
And I don't know that that would be the number one thing people would say about me, but I do have I'm trying to make people happy generally, you
Hmm.
know? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't avoid all conflict, but, you know,
Yeah.
I kind of wish I was had less of that instinct sometimes.
Hmm. I started as a young female CEO. I remember watching and realizing I'm getting treated differently from my counterparts who are men. And I saw that my counterparts who are men would also really stand up for themselves and stand up for their teams in ways that I didn't. And I thought
Mhm.
it almost looks like they're getting up there and they're just chest bumping. Like, I,
It's, oh my goodness, yes.
yeah.
I'll give you an example of one of those conversations where I prevailed. I call it the who's, this was early in Match.com. There were a lot of different guys because Match.com was a division of another company. So there were other people. There was a CEO. I was the GM of Match, but there were other people related looking at other classified advertising verticals that we could get into,
Hmm.
cars, rentals, etc. And every meeting would almost start with the whose is bigger
Yeah.
conversation. Well, I've done this. Well, I've done that. I've done this. And this particular meeting, we were talking about the revenue model, how we were going to charge customers for Match.
Hmm.
And the proposal on the table from the original business plan was really to charge per contact. Okay.
Oh,
Right, see? And
no.
our strategy was to attract women and build a dating site that women would like. And I knew, and plus I had come from AAA right before that, the membership, the
Hmm.
automobile membership thing. I was head of membership. So I knew that membership was golden, you
Yeah.
know. And in that particular meeting, I prevailed.
Yeah.
Because I had the experience. This is what you could do with membership. It's good for retention. There's upsells.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
people let them lapse and don't cancel. We all have plenty of subscriptions, I'm sure. And that was the predominant business models. It still pretty much is. Plus, for women, it made them feel like they were part of something
Hmm.
special, and it qualified the men.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really made sense.
Yeah.
But those meetings would drive me crazy. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. In my coaching work with especially kind of younger women in C-suite roles, I say you've got a chest bump. You need to identify when they're doing a power play on you, they're being a little bit overly aggressive. They're trying to prove that they're the smartest person in the room. Push back.
Well, let me tell you about fundraising because I recently had to tell somebody about this. There's a lot of research that shows that women, when they're raising funds for venture capital, and you know the stat,
Yeah.
women get at best 3% of venture capital, which,
It's gone down, actually. I think we were down to like
oh
1.75%
my
of
God,
venture
I
capital
mean,
goes
it,
to
it,
women.
it is an obdurate number. It has not changed despite a lot of people trying to change it, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's maddening. And I tell entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs that I might be advising or just talking to, you have to put your qualifications on the first page of your pitch.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, the whole time they're going to be thinking about who is she?
Yeah.
What does she know?
Yeah.
And that way you could say, hey, I've done this, this, and this,
Hmm.
that chest thumping you're talking about,
Hmm.
and move on. Otherwise, they're not paying attention to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I mean, I hate to paint this in such broad brushes about, the other gender, but it appears to be borne out by research.
and the biases are not just held by men.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah,
It's female investors as much
right,
as it is male investors.
right,
We all carry these biases.
right,
It
right.
just sucks when you're on the receiving end of it.
And we catch our friends and ourselves doing it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was recently talking with a woman who said, I think I need to work on my accent. I'm not from the United States, and I have found people just say very demeaning things to me. She's a female founder. And I said, I don't know if it's your accent. I think you need to be more forthright and assertive about your credentials, about everything you've accomplished. I think they're overlooking you. Because I said, give me an example of when this isn't going well. And it was construction, and she was just being written off.
yeah, especially in those kinds of fields. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh,
it's
don't kid yourself. There's ageism and, of course, ethnic bias as well.
absolutely, absolutely.
I'll
Um,
give you another one on ageism. I was This happened a few times, and I was talking about BabyQuip early on, and people know that I've had a certain amount of success. And it was kind of in that context that they asked me, well, why are you doing this now? Not like, why is this product good for the times? But why are you, Fran, not baking cookies?
yeah,
Right? I am very insulting.
yeah, yeah. My grandmother was applying to graduate school, and she was a single mom. And she still kept all these rejection letters from graduate schools that said in them, "Stay home with your boys. You shouldn't even be applying to graduate school."
Right?
Yeah,
We're not that far away from those times. And in many ways, I'm sure many would agree, we are going backwards and it's distressing.
that seems to be the experience of a lot of women that I talk with.
Yeah.
It's very distressing. And then we all like to pretend, oh, sexism in business isn't a thing anymore. Just look at the hard statistics.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So you've been, a startup environment, sometimes high energy, fun in the beginning, and then the real world hits and you grow and you got to get more sophisticated and you can lose a little momentum. You can get into some major conflicts about directional shifts companies need to take. And that expression, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And you can have a great business strategy and then the internal human dynamics start to drag you down. Do you have any examples of this in any of the companies or teams that you've worked in?
Well, with BabyQuip, I had a co-founder. She started the company, and then we changed it and restarted it
Hmm.
as in 2016.
Hmm.
And startups aren't for everyone.
Hmm.
She brought enormous energy, some great ideas,
Hmm.
many of which we still leverage and use.
Hmm.
But we didn't agree on some things. And I was the CEO. And at one point, she made the decision she wanted to leave. I didn't push her out. Startups aren't for everyone, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
But that had a really negative impact with some other members of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had to try and say, look, we're still going to honor the opportunity and the contributions, and she's still a shareholder, and but this is probably the best thing for everybody. But it was a difficult time. And then
Yeah.
shortly after that, I had a couple of people who just could not talk to each other. And in the end, both of them had to leave, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that was tough.
Hmm.
I don't think I handled those situations necessarily as well as looking back I could have.
Hmm.
And maybe I didn't handle them from the get-go. Maybe they weren't the best hires, or one or whatever.
Hmm.
But, the best thing I could say is you learn and you try and do better. I would say that the pandemic for BabyQuip was really, really hard.
Yeah.
In fact, we were on Shark Tank, and our episode aired on March 6th, 2020.
Oh.
And personally, at that time, my primary income was still from my vacation rental properties.
Hmm.
And that crashed at the same time,
Yeah.
too. And um, I really didn't know how things were going to go. But I was fortunate enough to have raised some money right before that. And
Hmm.
I brought in some money, more money in from investors in March.
Okay.
Um, and now I look back, it was a blip. But I think it had a big cultural change. If before that I thought that we would ever work in offices together, that really, that's really where we shifted to remote work.
Hmm. Yeah.
Also, most of my team were women with children at home, from
Hmm.
babies to teenagers.
Hmm.
And the pandemic was especially hard.
Yeah.
And I think it was at that point that I realized there was really no room for micromanaging. It just wasn't going to happen. We really got better about having all hands meetings and stand-ups and things like that. But it helped that we're a family-focused company in terms of what we do,
Hmm.
and tried to keep that family focus and flexibility
Yeah.
for the entire team.
Yeah.
And we're still all remote and have daily stand-up, and um, I'm trying to do more to have all company-wide meetings and fun things to do, like we did Family Feud. It was hilarious. It was kind of fun. And I try and remember when I'm talking to people to, especially on a one-on-one, hey, how was your weekend?
Yeah.
What's going on with your kids? How was that vacation you took?
Hmm.
And really try and maybe even share a little bit more about what I've been doing,
Yeah.
because we are not just robots,
Hmm.
and we've got to interact at a different level. And I'm really trying to figure out when I could get everybody together. Super expensive with a remote team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think Fran, I learned that lesson a little bit late. You've got to ask people about their kids and their weekends because I would come in just we have an agenda, let's get started, let's go. And people need that human connection. They need to see you as a connection. They have to know that you care about them as a human, not just a
right,
worker, right? And
right.
and when you don't show that interest and care and compassion, you're eroding trust left and right.
I'll tell you, in 2024, shortly after I lost my stepmother, I lost my dad. And I ended up having to be the executor of the estate. And I also had a little bit of a health issue that happened around the same time. And having the people kind of understand where I was at and
Hmm.
give me the grace and space to deal with what I needed to deal with
Hmm.
was super, super important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you had been paying it forward and showing them that grace.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
The other thing I realized too is, you get rock stars on your team, but that's great. You can't have divas.
Yeah. Or Mavericks, I call them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well,
And that's actually the name of my personality profile when I take the predictive index is Maverick.
Maverick. Which one is this?
Well, predictive index, that basically means you're kind of a high, a dominant person who likes to have their fingerprint on stuff, right? And you like to be very independent and
Yeah,
visionary, right? But maybe not always tracking some of the details, some of the rules, some of the structures that other
sure.
people like. Yeah.
So we do the Enneagram,
Hmm.
and that has turned out to be very, very helpful. It's a good way for all of us to get to know each other because
Yeah.
we'll do our Enneagrams and then we'll get together and talk about it.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I'm a seven,
Okay.
which is sort of the entrepreneurial visionary. And my son, who works for me, and that's another cultural issue. My son and I have been working together now for 7 years.
Hmm.
He's also a seven, but he has a different subtype.
Okay.
Anyway, so so the Enneagrams have turned out to be really, really helpful. And I think back when I was at Trustee, I hired an executive coach.
Hmm.
And because I was dealing with this difficult board and I needed to move the company forward and
Hmm.
change it from nonprofit to for-profit. I mean, we really needed money so that we could be relevant in all the privacy and data issues.
Yeah.
And making that board go from nonprofit to for-profit was really, really, really difficult. There
Hmm.
was a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I hired a consultant that worked with the board and told them that their job was impact,
Hmm.
not, and what's the best way to get impact?
Hmm.
And that was clearly to change the structure.
Hmm.
And I hired an executive coach, and she was very helpful in that I took one of these other, I think I took the Myers-Briggs and the Brickman. I mean, there's a lot of these
There are. Yeah.
assessment tools out there.
Yeah.
And one of them really sort of pointed out that I am not my best self when none of us are, when we get defensive,
Yeah.
right? None of us are,
Yeah.
right? And and she helped me identify the things that triggered
Hmm.
defensiveness,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
We've
And
all
once
got
I
it.
saw those, I was like, oh, okay, I
Yeah.
get it,
Yeah.
right?
I think having the assessments and coaching, we all need it. We
Oh yeah,
constantly our whole lives, right? And there's different kinds of coaches. I've had almost all of them, still want more, right? And I think that self-awareness of how we're different from other people, where our intensities are, so that you can leverage them, but also manage them. Sometimes your biggest
yeah,
gift is also your Achilles heel. Um,
yeah. And also, she did help me identify you are really good at this. Lean into those
exactly.
things,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems like common sense once you look at it, but it's really, really helpful. And then,
Mhm.
understanding like your Myers-Briggs or your Enneagram, you can be a little bit more. I still have on my computer what everybody is, just in case I need to remember. They get gratified by this, that, or the other thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, on this lines of kind of coaching and self-awareness and personal growth, I always say I think I've learned the most in my life from the worst of times. Adversity and when stuff is really hitting the fan, that's when we're truly challenged. But it's also when we have the opportunity for the biggest learning moments and growing as a person. And I'm wondering if you can think of a time in your career that was one of those kind of key moments where things were not working and you had to really look at something about yourself and make a big shift. What was that? What did that look like? What was your
Oh
takeaway?
wow. So there is one moment, and um there's probably more than one, but the one I'm talking about is I had to have jaw surgery in 2007, and for various reasons. Needless to say, when you get out of jaw surgery, you can't really talk much,
Right.
you know, and it was kind of a forced sabbatical.
Uh-huh.
And in the summer, and the kids were at camp,
Mhm.
And I really kind of got out and I had sleep apnea that was kind of bad.
Mhm.
And my jaw was too far back. So knew me kind of. And I knew almost immediately that it worked. Okay. Even though I was still
Mhm.
recovering. And that sabbatical, I realized that things had to change. And the company had to change, and that's really when I embarked on taking trustee from nonprofit to for-profit and really telling the board basically, I have to do this, and if we can't do it, then I have to leave, you know,
Mhm.
which sounds a little bit ultimatumly, but which, you don't really want to do. But it was the truth,
Yeah.
and I had to get momentum toward that goal.
Mhm.
And I also knew my marriage really needed some
Mhm.
work.
Yeah.
And I credit the time off
Mhm.
that was was long I'm losing the word a longer time off than usual, and it was not a time off when I was on vacation with the kids and we were doing things, which is great. Do those vacations.
Yeah.
It was a forced time off for me, and all I really could do was think.
Well,
And
that's
I'm sure I
why,
read and watched movies and all that stuff.
yeah, but that's why they say we need stillness and quiet to truly
Yeah.
reflect. We're all
And I
over.
had to get that surgery behind me actually, and that was uh I had to do a lot of orthodontic work. There was a lot of work that had to go on before,
Hmm.
and I kind of like couldn't do anything till that was behind me.
Yeah. And that brings up another point about like sometimes the lessons we take away from those things are not what we expect. And I had a similar situation where I had to realize the importance of actually taking care of myself, sometimes in a profound way, a life-changing way. And that if you're going to be an agent of change in this world and a powerful agent of change, then you have to have your physical health with you.
Yeah,
And
no, and that was renewed for me last year after, I had a difficult year. I lost all my parentals within a 3-year period, which, was kind of rough. And I sat down afterwards and it's like, okay, and I came into a little bit of money and it's like, what are you going to do?
mhm,
And top of the list, Meg, was I'm going to take care of my physical health,
yeah,
physical and mental health for that matter,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And brain health. I feel like we don't talk enough about the fact that most of us are running around overstimulated with dysregulated nervous systems, releasing massive amounts of cortisol and adrenaline into our bodies. That affects our judgment. It affects our health. We all have problems with inflammation, digestion, chronic disease, and it's because of brain health. And we're not paying attention and taking care of our brains.
One of the reasons why I now live in Santa Fe and I love San Francisco and was just spent 2 weeks there, and I spent 40 years in the Bay Area. It's lovely. But I now live in a house next to the mountains and not far from town, but still next to the mountains.
Hmm.
And there's so much serenity.
Hmm.
And when I found the house, the serenity was the number one thing about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes the greatest form of wisdom for us is admitting who we are and what we need and just saying these are my needs. If I'm going to do what I want to do in life, I'm going to achieve my purpose and my potential, then I need stillness. I need mountains. I need times of solace. I need this kind of support to admit it and get it. That's adulting. Get what you need.
Yeah, right, exactly. And women typically take care of everybody but themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really sad. And I was just reading a Harvard Business Review article just over the last couple of years that talked about, female executives in particular, and that one of the most common shared traits is they all say that they had to make it to the top themselves. They didn't get help, they didn't get support. And it's actually a little bit ironic to me because I think we all could have stopped and paused and asked for more support and demanded more support. But it's like we get into this grind and work ourselves down to the bone and we don't even stop to think. Like,
Yeah,
I need to set a boundary here.
right, right. Well, again, as we talked about at the beginning, we aim to please.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a really toxic little loop we can get into.
Well, and also when you have children, the society still guilts you.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, I have grown men, I work with one of them. And sure, I didn't go to all the games. I wasn't there every day after school with cookies and milk. And there was a time period that I was traveling a lot, and other time periods were, really around the time of match and all that craziness in San Francisco. I was still young. I was kind of partying.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
was right there. It was hard to resist. And um, I think they appreciate that. I was there for them when they need to. They still tell me
mhm.
a lot of important things. I'm close to them, and they grew up fine. And yes, their dad sometimes got up when they were sick in the middle of the night. It wasn't always me.
Yeah.
That's okay. They have a good relationship with their dad too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, I think we all end up going through a phase of self-reflection where we have to say, wait a second, is this really my priority or is this a societal expectation on me? You've got to question that, right? What's
Right.
really motivating
And
you?
women need to support other women with that too. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
I remember going for a walk with one of my neighbors who was a dear friend. And, and maybe she was defending her decision to stay home, which she had every right to do.
Hmm.
I mean, whatever. But she said, yeah, my priority is to be always available for my children. And I felt like quite the dig.
Well, and also, what example does that set for your children too? Like, I want my son to see mom has a life and mom is contributing to the world
Sure.
around her. And so I'm not at the center of her world all the time, and that's
Right.
healthy. And
Right.
I want him to have a healthy, balanced life and not completely self-sacrifice for his children, frankly. Yeah. So, this is fun waxing philosophical with you here, Fran. So,
Good. Me
I'm
too.
wondering, you are at a place that a lot of people would say you're at the pinnacle of your career. You have accomplished so much. You're still doing incredibly exciting work. And I'm wondering, what do you see as your next area of growth and development personally so that you can be really fulfilled by your work, experience minimal stress, and really have the kind of influence on others that you truly want to have?
Well, it's timely that you asked this. And I'm very proud of myself because I have told my board of directors and my employees that I'm 63 years old and I'm very dedicated to the company, but there's a timeline. I'm not sure if it's 2 years or 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to have to step away at some point. I
Mm-hmm.
might still be on the board or something like that, but this is what I really need for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've actually even hired a coach
Mm-hmm.
to help me. His nickname is my exit coach.
Good.
And I would like to exit with either raising a really good round
Mm-hmm.
or selling the company
Mm-hmm.
and keep the company on a very upward trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
But it has shifted my focus.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm looking at the current team and making sure that they're ready for that potentially one or more of them could step up even to bigger roles
Yeah.
once I leave. And also thinking about the kind of hires that I need
Mm-hmm.
to really and to get the people in and trained and
Mm-hmm.
ready for a very senior role in the company once I leave. And that it surprises me in that I'm ready to do it. I recognize I'm ready to do it. I'm not apologizing for being ready to do it,
Yeah.
and being focused on trying to get there. What happens after that happens? There's, you know, here in Santa Fe, I'm on a board of a cultural institution called NDI, National Dance Institute, New Mexico, that teaches kids to dance, but mostly teaches them how to pursue excellence.
Uh-huh.
And I'm excited about that. So I see after BabyQuip doing some more board work. I'd like to do corporate board work as well.
Mhm.
And maybe, right now I'm working with how women invest on one of the investment committees.
Mhm.
And maybe that will turn into something.
Mhm.
But I'm not good. Oh, part of me is like, wow, if I was 30 years younger, I'd be trying to figure out the AI thing. Or even 20 years younger, probably even 10 years younger, I'd be trying to figure that out. But as much as it's exciting, it's kind of, it's weird to get to a point where you're thinking, hey, the truth is, and maybe it's because I lost all my parents, and my parents were both in their 80s, young 80s. Um, yeah, you got to live life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and that brings me to the last question I wanted to ask you, Fran, about if I could give you a time machine and send you back to talk to yourself 15 years ago or so, what advice would you give yourself?
Um, I think going back 25 years around the time of Match, it would have been have more confidence,
Okay.
you know? And so many more women need to know that they do know what they're doing. They have had the experience, either in a corporation or dealing with a problem,
Yeah.
that their approach and perspective and focus is valued, needs to be out there, and give yourself the permission to succeed. Have that confidence. And I think if I look back 10 years ago, Um, this is kind of a funny story, Meg. It was post my divorce. I was about to buy another property in Santa Fe. And at the same time, I was about to start BabyQuip. And at this point, I'm no longer married. And I had a bunch of friends from different parts of my life, coincidentally, in Santa Fe. Friends from business school, college, high school, just life. There's a bunch of us. And I threw it out there. It's like, there's nobody now who tells me no, you know? I'm not saying that my ex-husband always said no, but, he did enough anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have done these things had I remained married. So that would be true.
Okay.
And I kind of laid it out for them. It's like, okay, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm worried about. And this might not work and this might not work. And do you guys have any concerns you want to share about this direction I'm going? And that was interesting. And they basically said, no, you look like you've got it, figured out.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad I went through that exercise,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, Fran, that was a lot of wisdom. You've given me a lot of fun
Oh,
ideas
good.
to
Thank
think
you.
about. So thank you
Happy.
so much for being here, for your authenticity, and sharing these little gold nuggets with us. And it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too. Good luck.
Thank you.